is the Chairperson and Chief Executive Officer of Punong Bayan and Araulio, or PNA Grant Thornton, a member firm with the International Limited Company and one of the Philippines' leading professional services firms, providing audit, accounting, advisory, and tax services. So Maria Victoria, or Marivic Españo, is a Philippine certified public accountant and a certified management accountant. She is also an associated certified coach of the International Coach Federation and is recognized by the Philippine Professional Regulation Commission as the 2020 Outstanding Professional in the field of accountancy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I turn over the screen to Marivic Españo. Welcome.
Thank you, the fourth, and good morning to all my co-presenters this morning and all the viewers and listeners who are joining us today. Interesting talk by Gail earlier. It made me think whether I am like a tiger, do I roar? But I think I'm more of a dragon. I don't roll, but I breathe fire. So on a serious note, first I would like to thank Manila Times for inviting PNA Grant Thornton to this event and for giving us the opportunity to share the results of the 2022 Women in Business Report. As the business community may be aware, PNA Grant Thornton has been conducting this annual survey since 2004, since we strongly believe that gender diversity is going to be a significant factor that businesses must consider in their long-term plans. Now, allow me to start by saying that the past 2 years that we've experienced under the pandemic environment have been challenging for businesses, even from the perspective of recruiting and retaining talent. While we see reports on the significant job losses these past years, especially in industries that have been most affected, businesses have actually been experiencing high levels of resignations. In the US and United Kingdom, for instance, they have actually called these past 2 years of the pandemic as the Great Resignation era or period. The lockdown provided employees the opportunity to reflect and realize what they really want from work and from their lives. So with this backdrop, the ability of companies to adopt practices that promote diversity and inclusions becomes more important than ever. In a related business study conducted also by Grant Thornton, the results show that 57% of the mid-market businesses are really concerned about talent shortage. So connecting that with the 2022 Women in Business Report, the results are very timely since it presents the progress made by businesses in promoting diversity and captures the various practices being pursued. So I'm sharing with everyone today the highlights of this report. We will be covering where we are right now. There are some, indicators that we have been tracking throughout these years. I will also be discussing how COVID impacted the practices of employers and what employees feel about these changes that employers are introducing. I will also cover the specific actions taken by employers to improve employee engagement and inclusion, and try to understand what is motivating businesses to do this, to pursue these practices. And finally, I would like to share, some factors, some indicators that companies are seriously tracking to understand how successful they've been in this endeavor. Okay. So the 2022 report presents the results of the survey conducted in 2021, which covered more than 4,000 mid-market businesses in 29 countries globally. You would see here specific information like in the Philippines, that covered 105 countries and a bigger number in the Asia Pacific region. Now, interesting results of the survey. The good news is that there is an improvement in the percentage of women occupying senior leadership role globally. Likewise, you would see in this graph that in Asia Pacific, we have reached the 30% level, which is the first time that it has, attained that percentage since 2004. And, we see that this would be a game changer in terms of opportunities for women in the region. The slightly not so good news would be if you look at the Philippines, there was actually a decline in the percentage of women in senior leadership role from 48% to 39%. There was also an increase in the percentage of businesses in the Philippines with no woman in senior management role. Last year, that was just 3%. Now we are seeing 6% based on the 2021 survey. Now, moving on, despite this, seemingly decline, we are happy to see that the survey still shows the Philippines ranking fourth globally in terms of the percentage of women in that particular role. And we also see, as I will share with you later on, that Philippine businesses continue to support initiatives to promote inclusivity and gender parity in the workplace, even during the pandemic times. Now, if you deep dive into the data, you would see that while there is a decline in the percentage in 2021, looking at the moving average past 3 years, so sometimes there are factors that would influence this decline or increases. But I think what is more important to look at would be the 3-year moving average. So if you look at the 3-year moving average from 2019 to 2021, you would see that the Philippines is still at 43%. That is higher than the global 3-year moving average of 31%. In fact, if you consider this 3-year moving average as the basis, the Philippines would be on the top of the list among the 29 countries surveyed. Okay, so having that general picture, where are the women leaders? What kind of roles do they play? And has this changed during the last 2 years? So you would see in this graph that for most of the positions, there was actually a decline in the percentage of women holding such position. However, while there is a decline in human resources, that particular area remains to be the field where the percentage of women in senior leadership role remains to be the highest. Okay, notable to highlight is the increase in the increase in the percentage of women in the positions for the chief financial officer, the CFO, that grew from 35 to 41%, the CIO from 20 to 23, and the CMO from 20 to 24. So quite interesting shift, I guess, in this function or area of expertise. Now, when we try to analyze the results of the survey and try, in the attempt to find out why was there a decline in the Philippines during the pandemic, we believe that this can actually be explained by the fact that women leaders in our country are usually found in the industries that were most affected by the pandemic. These included tourism, hotels and entertainment, media, education, and several personal services businesses. Moreover, in the past, I've always been asked, why is the percentage of women in senior leadership role high in the Philippines? I have to recognize that in the Philippines, we do have this special support that we get from our relatives or kasambahay, and that helps us manage the multi-dimensional challenges that women leaders still have to carry outside of work. Now, during the pandemic, there was a change in the situation. We observed that women lost the support coming from their live-in relatives and their kasambahay. A number of them went home to their provinces or to their own homes due to the fear of the high infection rate in the urban areas or the need to take care of their own families. So during the pandemic times, you can see, working women really doing a lot of multitasking. A third factor that could have influenced this is the change in the situation at home, especially the children. Since classes were conducted virtually, children needed the support of their parents to cope under this new learning environment. I've heard some friends that suddenly, they're in IT, but suddenly they became kindergarten teachers all over again because they cannot just leave their children to cope with this new environment. And usually in under our setup, it is the mother who takes on this role. Okay, so choices have to be made, even if temporary, I'd like to believe. Now, the survey also asked the respondents their views on the changes being made by their employers. I know that there have been several, events, forums where employers express what they've done to cope, to help their employees cope with this new environment. Now, the employees covered by the survey agreed that the new ways of working that had been introduced during the pandemic times will create a more inclusive environment for female talent. When I say new ways of working, this primarily referred to the hybrid type of work, the virtual, the compressed work week, and so on. 78% of those surveyed said that they believe that the working practices will benefit women's career in the long term. Okay, it is that view is on the assumption that these working practices will continue even when the pandemic is no longer there. And then 68% of the employees feel that somehow there's a stakeholder pressure that is causing the company to adopt these practices to achieve gender balance as a result of the pandemic. Okay. Now, moving on, maybe you'd like to see what kind of changes have been introduced. Now, the respondents said that 65% have seen that companies instill new work practices like long-term, long-term potential virtual kind of work environment, as well as hybrid work arrangements. They see that the employers are now introducing practices to open door policy. They're promoting more work-life balances and allowing flexibility in the way one does his work. There are also many employers, because of the pandemic, who have adopted the the different learning and development programs. So that they were used to face-to-face. Now we've seen virtual training programs. We've seen the rollout of on-demand programs. And this really helps a lot, according to them. We've also seen practices where women, as mentioned by Gail, are being encouraged to speak up and to volunteer in different kinds of activities outside of their work responsibilities. Coaching and mentoring are key components of the new practices, as well as establishing role models that female employees can emulate. Now, part of the study also showed, and when we were asking why are companies doing this? Is it because it is the right thing to do? This survey showed that companies appreciate the benefits of creating an environment that promotes employee engagement and inclusion. So it's not just doing the right thing, but actually it is good for business. And they appreciate now the importance of building such culture, and many companies have included diversity and inclusion and employee engagement as part of the strategy discussions. Okay. Some of the factors that were noted in this area would be 58% believe that it reflects diversity, gender balance reflects the company's customers and community's expectation. They see that having a diverse team would help the organization assemble the best team to service the clients. They also see that having diverse mindset improve business outcomes. And finally, they feel that given that there are, as pointed out by Gail earlier, we have a huge population of female professionals, female workers, and it is important for companies, therefore, to attract prospective talents coming from this pool. So, so there's a shift, no, from doing just what is right. I think companies really see that diversity and inclusion can be a strategic driver for business success and sustainability. And we can see that the practices, the programs that are being implemented are included in the strategic initiatives, and specific KPIs are now being monitored. You would see in the screen some samples of these KPIs: gender pay equality, psychological safety, percentage of female employees. Some even go down to more detailed percentage of employee by management level, or percentage of female employees being promoted. Okay. Now, and companies are actually monitoring this, setting targets, and pushing, trying to influence the achievement of those targets. So I think there's a growing realization that to be truly successful, companies are now, purposely driving gender diversity into their business agenda, and executing in a more strategic manner these initiatives. So with that, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to share these highlights, and I'd welcome the discussions later on.
Okay, thank you very much for that very illuminating talk, Marivic. And before I move on to the next speaker, I just want to ask a very brief questions. Of course, there will be questions later in the open forum, but you mentioned in your report in the women in senior management roles that there was a decline, right? And my question is, in your opinion, what may have been the factors that have contributed to the decline? And how big of a factor is the work from home setup? And is there a direct impact to productivity?
I mentioned some of the factors that, based on an analysis, may have contributed to this. The specific industries that women are found, the loss of the live-in relative support, as well as the adjustments needed for the children. Maybe another factor is that, under this, with the realization that options are available, and work can actually be done anywhere. Employees have seen that there are opportunities for them to do work even outside the Philippines, if you think about it, right? So why do you have to be in the Philippines to be, let's say, a financial consultant to a firm in the US? Pwede, right? And because it's working. So those options, likewise, may have opened the doors for people to be more, selective in their choices, because there are many out there.
Okay, so that's actually a wonderful opportunity, if I may add then, because it opens more doors for more opportunities, not only for women leaders and for women who are in senior roles, management positions, but for everyone as well, right, Marivic?
Right. You're definitely right, Kate.
Okay, so once again, we thank you very much for that talk, but please do stay with us later, because there will be an open forum, and this will also give a chance to all of our watchers right now to field some questions for you. So thank you once again.